just points at me. That's the first thing he does when he walks in. He points at me. And I look up, and he was like, "You." And I was like, "Oh, God, no." And he was like, "You're the one in the story." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "The story I'm about to tell, like, it's you that's in it."
Friends are loyal, friends are kind, friends are always on your mind. When I'm with my friends, I'm feeling fine. Well, I guess I'm a lucky guy, 'cause I've got buddies by my side, and they'll be by my side through thick and thin. No matter what, we'll stick together up until the very end. Oh, I love my friends. Friends are there for highs and lows, they're anywhere life ebbs and flows. When I'm with my friends, I'm not alone. And even when we're far apart, they'll always be in my heart, and part of me will always be with them. I love my friends.
My name is Paris Prince. I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I moved to Bentonville, Arkansas when I was 5. I've lived here for about, 13 years. And I'm 18 years old. I am, a barista. I know. Ooh, coffee. And I do modeling and influencing, and I'm hoping to go to school at University of Arkansas in the fall. I've been I've not been Mormon. I was Mormon for 15 years. I guess technically 16, but yeah.
How long have you been out of the church?
2 years.
Walk us through what broke your shelf.
So I have 4 gay uncles, and when I was 11 or 12, I went to my uncle's wedding, and I remember my whole family there. Everyone was Mormon. A lot of them still are, and they were all there, and everyone was present to support my uncle and his partner getting married. But I remember going to church a couple weeks after that and talking to my mom about how I didn't understand how it made sense that everyone is born perfect and born how God is supposed to make you and how you're supposed to be, and everyone's able to get to heaven. Everyone has a place in heaven, but my uncle or my uncles couldn't go. So I was confused because I knew that they were born that way and like that since birth, but then there's not a place for them in heaven. So is there a place for everyone? And I realized that didn't make any sense. So I was 11 or 12, and I asked that question in Sunday school, and there was no answer for me. I guess I would have been a little bit older because I was in beehives. So probably, was it 12, 13? Yeah? Okay, so I was 12 or 13. And I was in my second hour class, so it was boys and girls. And we were talking about how to get to heaven and all the steps you need to take. And I remember asking a question, basically, which is pretty blatant for Sunday school, but being I have a question. What about gay people? And everyone was like, huh? And I was like, yeah, And they were like, oh, well, everyone has an opportunity to get to heaven. And I was like, but what if they are still gay, but they still want to go to heaven? They're like, well, we're going to put that in our question box, and we're going to put that on the shelf, and I don't have any answers for you right now. And I remember just being like, well, why don't you have any answers for me right now? You said you have all of the answers and all of the truth, but there's a puzzle piece that's missing. And then I just kept finding more and more puzzle pieces. And they basically didn't have an answer for me. And I asked later at dinner with my family, and they also were like, that's a good question, but there were no answers.
So when you started finding more puzzle pieces, what were the other puzzle pieces that didn't match up?
Well, I remember one of them being that I did not like garments. I thought they were really ugly, and I didn't want to wear them ever. And I also didn't want to go on a mission. That did not sound fun to me. I had have very set plans for what I want to do, and that just didn't make any sense. So I was confused how that was supposed to fit in my life, even though women aren't supposed to go on missions, but they're encouraged. I knew that it wouldn't fit in my brother's life either. And he didn't want to go, so he couldn't go to heaven, and that just didn't make any sense to me. As well as the fact that I had no interest in going to the temple, and that was also another step I needed to take to go to heaven. And I was just confused how that could possibly mean that God is going to accept me or not accept me if I didn't want to go into the big white building. Just didn't make any sense. Also, garments are so ugly. I didn't want to wear them, and I wanted to wear short shorts. Kill me. Sue me. It's ridiculous.
What was the biggest impact on you after you had left the church?
Probably, I was asked weekly, I was texted weekly if I was going to be attending church by different leaders, and a lot of them were thought that what they were doing was beneficial and was being kind and making sure that, I'm on the right path, but it was honestly none of their business. And so I was reached out every Saturday to see, hey, I can drive you to church. Hey, I just want to see if you're going to be going there. And it just was embarrassing. Like, what are you supposed to say? No, like every single time. My parents were contacted to see if I was going to be joining people at youth conference or girls camp. And every time my mom was like, nope, she's not going to be going. And then just seeing how losing that community of losing people that were there for you and were supposed to be your friends but not talking to you if you had different views, seeing how the loss of that community affected my family and affects other people's families. It just didn't make any sense that like you could care so much and then you could just cut off all contact because they weren't going to church. So clearly you aren't, really interested in me or interested in me going to church with you. So that was weird. And also the fact that like I had a lot of good relationships, like specifically with like babysitting kids that I had babysat. Mormons let people babysit their kids when they're like 11 years old. So I was like babysitting since I was like 11 or 12. And there's families that like I've been babysitting for 5 years, 4 years, and then just never got asked it again. And it's sad when you're bringing them birthday presents and like Christmas presents and they just don't really want you to have, not everybody, but certain people just don't want you to have any like contact with their kids, even though I know I care a lot more than anybody else would.
It sounds to me like they care more about the money than...
Yeah, and also just like people, once your hand leaves the iron rod, then you are, cast into outer darkness, and they want you to try to come back, and if you're not coming back, they don't want anything to do with that because they don't want to be out there too. And if you're in relation or like you're in the vicinity of someone who is obviously like to them like dealing with Satan now, then they don't want anything to do with you. So
walk us through your baptism for the dead.
I guess it was youth conference, and I went to Nauvoo for youth conference, which, hashtag not fun. That was just, there's just a waste of time, honestly. I don't even remember anything from there, except for I got a big fat brick that said Nauvoo on it, and I think I still have it, which why, but I keep everything anyway, so, I remember just being like, this is like super boring, and then they were like, yeah, we're gonna go to the temple. And I was like, slay, I've never been there. And so I I remember just being really uninterested. I just didn't really want to go. Like, I just didn't have any interest in it. But I went, I had my recommend, and I kind of remember feeling like kind of like a baddie. Like, I passed it over, and I was like, yeah, like I can get in this place. It's like a bar, showing your ID. Like, yeah, my name's on that. And I remember walking in and just being like, the only other time I'd been in a temple was like an open house. They make you put like these little things on your feet so that it's like you're not being dirty and whatever. And I just remember being like, oh, it's like really pretty in here, but just weird vibes, dude. Vibes were off. Like weird vibes. Like people are like, oh, you walk in and it's just like, and I remember being like, reminds me of like when you're watching a scary movie, you're just kind of on edge the whole time. It was just weird. It was creepy. And we went to the back room where basically everyone like gets undressed and dressed in their like ugly white jumper. And I remember it being like super high waters on, or I had like high waters. It was so bad. The jumper was just not big enough. It was just terrible. and we got into the room, like the waiting room. And I remember I was giggling so hard because everyone looked so funny. Like it looked so hilarious in these jumpers. And I'm just like kind of sitting there with my head down in the waiting room, just like waiting to like get the talk from this like senile guy that walked in. And he like walks in, he's like, just points at me. That's the first thing he does when he walks in, he points at me. And I look up and he was like, you. And I was like, oh God, no. And he was like, you're the one in the story. And I was like, what? And he was like, the story I'm about to tell, like it's you that's in it. And I was like, well, it's not me because I've never seen you. And he was like, no, but you look like the girl. I was like, okay. So he makes me stand up and everyone looks at me and I'm just like, I'm the girl, I guess. And then he tells this whole story. I don't remember what it was. And then they lead us into the most culty looking room I've ever seen in my life, dude. Like weird pool, all these oxen around, and you basically wait in line until you walk up, and then this man you've never seen or met in your whole life dunks you under the water and says the name. All I remember is Rebecca. I don't remember. I got dunked for like 2 people, or baptized for 2 dead people, which is so strange to say out loud. But they dunk you under the water, say their name, and you sit up, and everyone was like, that was so awesome. And I was like, that was so weird. And nobody else agreed with me. Like, everyone just thought it was super awesome, but I'm sure internally they did. They just were too nervous to say anything. Also, super see-through, the jumper, by the way. Super weird. I remember my mom picking out specific underwear that I was supposed to wear with this jumper, and I did not understand why until afterward. And then you change out of that gross jumper, and we went to go eat some sloppy joes at the church. So yeah, just super strange, weird vibes. Left feeling like super unsettled, and everyone else apparently left feeling revived. And I was not sure why.
Like, you obviously grew up in it for 15 years. Do you still catch yourself in, like, sometimes of a Mormon mindset of, like, do people say things to you and you're just kind of like, wait, it's fine? Because
Yeah, like I find myself being very, a lot less now, but very defensive when people will say, like, well, I heard Mormons do this and this, and I'm, like, quick to, because that's what I was taught to do, quick to react and be like, well, they don't. And then I realize I'm like, wait, shit, they do. I was like, crap, I can't say that. Like, and I realized that, like, it's not my job to defend the church anymore, because growing up, even from 2nd grade, actually kindergarten, even from kindergarten, it was like, I'm Mormon, written on my chest. I had every single day, choose the right and tell people you're Mormon, and if someone brings it up, don't hide it, and if someone talks bad about it, you tell them that they're wrong. And I was just like told to do it, and I did it. There's so many times I think about now that I'm like, even when I was 14, 15, I remember hanging out with this guy, and I went to his house like for the first time, and I ate dinner with his family. And I was just thinking about this earlier today, how embarrassing it is that I sat there with his family and they asked me questions about being Mormon. I could tell they were kind of like joking about it. And they were like, well, kind of just joking about being Mormon and Utah Mormons. And I was just so defensive. And I remember being just like so upset that they would make fun of like the church. And then literally a year later it was like, I don't know, even though at that point I didn't necessarily believe in it, that I just was still so like, it's just like my nervous system reacting. That was like, that's what I was supposed to do, was be like, no, you're wrong, when they were totally right. I also hate my head being touched like this. It's like the worst.
Did you ever
disgusting.
get confirmations? Like,
Yeah.
did you get the ring? What's it called? The
CTR ring?
Do you have one? You
Yeah.
still have it?
Should I get a CTR tattoo? That'd be so funny. That would be funny. I want to get it. Yeah,
What
never
does it
mind.
stand for again?
Choose the right.
There's a song.
Oh, there's songs for everything.
Oh.
That's another thing that like
Yeah,
growing
so
up
like
pissed me
growing
off.
up in it, still like even from a young age, did you ever feel the inequality within the church?
Oh yeah, because I'm like, I've always, since I was little, been like butting heads with my brother, because I can do just as much as you can, and I know you're 5 years older than me, but like I bet I could play football just as good as you can, and like I deserve to get the priesthood. I don't want the priesthood. I deserve to get the priesthood too, and there's no reason that like all those men should sit up there. Like, what about their wives sit up there with them? And just like, I always have been like that since I was young, just like unsure as to why, like, you know, I don't know, like the Relief Society too, like never made much sense to me, because like everything I heard about it or everything I witnessed about it was just like so not feminist that it was confusing as to why that was supposed to be like a feminist movement. And also just the idea that like I was supposed to, like when I was questioning like the church or had questions, like I was supposed to go to the bishop and talk to him about it. And I was always confused. Why can't I be a bishop? What if I want to be a bishop? Because my friend, we're having those career days, you know, at school. And I'm like, well, there's this like pastor guy here and he's talking to me about how I could become a pastor. Why can't I become a bishop? That's so confusing. And just like, also just knowing that when I like at girls camp and stuff like that, when the bishop came to visit, it was like, oh my gosh, like he's here. And I was like, why do y'all care so much? Like he's so weird, it's so strange. And just, I don't know, just us not being able to, I don't know, just have as much, we just weren't important. Just not important. And I just thought it was weird how glorified, like I was talking about meeting Elder Bednar, like why did I care so much? I don't know any of the women, like the names of the women that speak at General Conference. Oh, but I can actually name all of the prophets in a song right now for you.
You won't.
I don't want to. One thing I specifically wrote, David, oh, okay. Yeah, like I could name all, I have no clue, like the women. And that's, I guess, on me for not knowing, but like they're not presented to me. They're not, I mean, how many hours of General Conference did we just have and how many women spoke? There were 3 women and 10 hours of General Conference or something. How can you only find 3 women? That's insane to me. Do you remember when the I Know a Mormon Boy was cut out from girls camp? Dude, that was my favorite song.
If you knew all the songs that we had to
Dude,
sing.
it was my favorite, and I got yelled at so much because they were just like, I know, and they were like, well, you can't like be doing that. I can't be talking about boys at girls camp. What's the point then?
But isn't the whole point is like you?
Oh, but you can't even wear. You have to have. You're at a girls camp with only women, but your shorts have to still be this long. You can't wear tank tops. You have to wear one-piece bathing suit. And then I brought one-piece bathing suits, and those were still too inappropriate. And I'm like,
It's never good enough for them. Unless we're all
sorry.
paper bags.
Potato sacks.
Yeah, literally.
Honestly, potato sacks chic.
But even
Probably.
still, like, there were still priesthood holders there.
Gosh.
So how was your interaction with Elder Bednar?
I don't remember a ton of it. I just remember us waiting for like a solid 90 minutes after I don't even know what it was. It was a conference or something that a state conference, I think, that he had attended. And my whole family and I waited for like 90 minutes after the state conference because I wanted to get his autograph. It's embarrassing. It's literally, I don't even want to say it. It's so embarrassing. And I have a picture of us meeting him. And I remember just being like starstruck. Like that was Elder Bednar. And I also thought he was super hot. I was like 11. And that, I'm not kidding. My dad was like, you can't say that. And I was like, but we're not even inside the church. We're in the parking lot. And we waited for him. We literally waited outside of the church in the dark as he walked to his vehicle. We could have been arrested. But we waited for him to come out to his vehicle and we met him. And he gave me, I think he definitely only gave me his mailing address. It wasn't a P.O. box. It was like a mailing address. And I still, I think, have the letter, or my mom has a letter or something, of like, I mailed him a letter and he mailed me a letter back. And I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but like, I was the one that like stalked you, like, but no. But I just remember just feeling like, wow, like I'm close to God. Like that's like a step further, right? Because like he speaks for him for sure. So yeah, I remember feeling like he was a celebrity. I felt like the coolest person in Sunday school. I told everyone, showed everyone the pic. He emailed back, or he wrote mail back. Gold, liquid gold. Actually, envelope gold.
What about like racism in the church? Like racism in the book, all that kind of stuff. Like, did that ever come up for you? Like,
yeah, I was never. I mean, I was told like when I was younger. I mean, I guess I don't know if like I should even say this. When I was younger, like I always was interested like in people of color. Like I always like boys and stuff like that would always come over, and like my grandma would always like make a comment about it, which is terrible. But I didn't understand why like they would make comments, or like friends I had that were of color would make comments about like how, Mormons are racist. And I was like, what? It's like, I'm not racist. Like, I don't know. And I always just thought that that was just like because there was not a lot of diversity within the church, which I was young and I guess I didn't really understand that. And now as I've gotten older and done my research, my mom and I, she read me this one book that we found at her parents' house, and it is just like terrible. Like it was like a few years ago that we read it, and it was old books that have been pulled from the like church's website and stuff, but just talking about how like the reason like black people are black was because they were like from the devil, and like all this stuff that was in like written cursed. Yeah, they were cursed, and like I guess they said what is it, Lamanites, or like, and it's just they aren't even from like, I don't know, it's all.
Did you ever like have like a boyfriend that was a person of color?
Well, boyfriend's a loose term, but yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have a family member that would like refer to them as a Lamanite?
Yes, actually, I do remember that. I have a cousin who is married. Well, they're both Mormon. I guess I don't talk to them anymore, but I think maybe still. And he was of color, and I remember like I don't even remember what it was, but I remember his family kind of like mentioning something about that, and I was too young to really understand. But then my mom and I talk about it now, and we're like, that is so embarrassing that like we didn't even know that like that's what we were representing, and also just being like so quick to defend, and then not knowing that you're literally representing, or like you're really defending racism. And that's like I didn't realize that until when I read that book, and I just was like, wait, this is from like the Mormon church? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, how? I mean, I thought there was supposed to be a place in heaven for everyone, but not for everyone, only for the white male.
Funny. What's your caffeine order?
Oh, like what do I drink that has caffeine in it?
Right now.
It's so bad. I work at 7 Brew, and I drink probably like 4 Red Bulls a day. I hope my mom isn't watching this, because I tell her I don't drink like caffeine anymore because it's like messes with my health or whatever. It's not because of that. But I drink like 4 Red Bulls a day, and it's probably like a Razorberry Red Bull from 7 Brew. I hate coffee. I think it's gross. But Razorberry Red Bull from 7 Brew, or like...
Extra sweet, sugar-free can?
Mm-hmm.
Still the same?
Yeah. Yeah. It's my guilty pleasure. It's like $9.12, so don't recommend. It's fine. It's fine. I get half off. It's fine. Baptists don't like Mormons.
I don't think you get hand.
All right.
You wouldn't get the
And
references,
clap.
but you would.
Clap again. Perfect. Thank you.
That was funny the way you didn't even catch that, but you said, isn't it true that Mormons don't like Baptists? And I said, Baptists don't like Mormons. That was my first thing to say back, even though. I like to bear my testimony that I know this church is not true, and that Joseph Smith was not a real prophet. He was a con artist.
Look, I love the platypus.